Better late than never. Let's make a Nephthys deck. Alright guys, so the ban list just came out, and it affected some of my decks. I mean, almost every single one of my deck had Summon Spark in it, but it is what it is. This is a deck that I always wanted to build, didn't do it, didn't touch it when it first came out. There was a lot of different builds I've seen. I kind of just made a variant that utilizes some of the stuff that works best, but my version is just about getting monsters on board to link. I personally don't think this deck is that great. I mean, if you invest in some more heavy hitting cards, it's potential, but I'm glad to showcase what I've come up with. So, to start off, for your Nephthys monsters, you're definitely going to want 3 Disciple of Nephthys. So this is going to be your main searcher by destroying a card in your hand, and you add a Nephthys monster from your deck to your hand, and then if it is destroyed, the next of your standby phases, you can add a Nephthys spell or trap. So their effects after they're destroyed kind of suck that you have to wait so long, but they're still nice. And after playtesting this deck, I've noticed most of the Nephthys monsters that came out, a lot of them are just kind of crappy. So my ratio for the actual like spellcaster ones is pretty low. But 2 Defender of Nephthys, because this one is going to summon one from your hand by destroying a card. I just realized that some of their effects are more like easy to use than the others. So I went with the Nephthys monsters that are going to be more likely live when you draw them. And then following up the 2 Defenders is going to be 2 of your Matriarch. So Matriarch's going to summon one in the graveyard from pop into the hand. I forget what her name is, but I don't like the one that pops to add a card from the graveyard to the hand. Especially like, there's so many other ways to add stuff back, and like the way you look kind of like just use things in this deck anyways. So I just didn't feel like she was that necessary. So that's it for our basic of the monsters. Moving on to your Nephthys rituals. We're going to have 3 Devotee of Nephthys. She's probably going to be the ritual you go into the most. I mean, she only takes 2, she's just 2 stars. Plus, when she summons, she's going to summon any Nephthys monster out the deck. And then when she's in the grave, you can destroy a Nephthys card in your hand, card specifically, doesn't have to be monster, and then summon her back again from the graveyard. And then I run 2 Cerulean Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. I kind of wish I could run 3, but I haven't really found the space yet. He is really easy to summon as well, and the fact that he can recur if he's destroyed is pretty nice. But just the 5 for the rituals. I'm hoping Nephthys get another ritual monster that is like more of like a facilitator to plays, but we'll see. Going on with some of our bigger monsters, we got 1 Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. This is another monster I've kind of thought about playing with too, so when he's destroyed, the next standby phase of yours, he's going to come back and pop all spell and traps. So he is pretty nice because I don't really run traps in this deck. I only run 2. And he's just a level 8. Plus he's a winged beast. Plus he's a Nephthys monster. So he's summonable by things in your deck. He's usable for your ritual fodder. And he's just nice synergy with the deck in general. So just 1 of him. And then, of course, 2 Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Because having so many effects that destroy stuff. And he is possibly like... With decks that have no answer to him, he can be really annoying. The fact that he's just going to keep coming out and blowing himself up, and if you can get one on the field while one is waiting to come back, you can kind of just keep them cycling out from each other and doing the same thing. Plus, same thing as before, Wing Beast, level 8, good fodder for your rituals. Next, 2 Fire King Avatar Arvada. So I don't really have the full-on Fire King variation in this deck. I tried it for a while. I just personally didn't like it very much. I mean, a lot of people probably prefer that version more. But for me, I just feel like only this Fire King for the basic Fire Kings is worth running, because he's just going to summon one from the grave and negate its effects. Plus, he's a negate while on board. And an 1800 beater isn't a bad idea either. Now on to some of my own personal techs. I'm running 2 Gigabyte. So this might go to 1, but it is actually kind of being nice at 2. So like I mentioned earlier, my version is a lot about just getting monsters on the play to link away. And he can just be summoned from the hand if you control a spellcaster type monster, and you can only control 1 at a time. The rest of his effects is kind of irrelevant in this deck. In a slower build, when I was still testing with this, I used to run King of Feral Imps just to search this out, but that's kind of a dead space in the extra deck. So I do like Gigabyte as just a nice little addition to this deck for now, and he's been working pretty well for me because he's a different type and everything, so he'll pretty much be live to make whatever link you want him to be used for when you do summon him. And then 1 Manju of the 10,000 Hands. So Obviously, Manju's effect is really good. He's going to get any of your ritual monsters or your ritual spell. But normally, summoning is so slow in today's format, unless you're a deck that does multivit, like Yusenju's or Evil Swarm or something like that, that if you gonna normal summon, you want it to be something important. So I don't really want to run more than one Manju, because while I was playing this deck, it's like the more if I had him I had in my hand, I would always get him with like a pre-prep or something anyways. And this isn't as good as the rituals are in this deck. They're not like Gishkis or something else where the monsters can be abused if you can re-summon them over and over in the same turn, you know? So just one Manju for now. And then another spicy tech of mine, well, not really spicy because he's also still in the test form, is I am running one Garuda the Wind Spirit. Same logic as the Gigabyte. Got a lot of wins with the Spellcaster girls in here. And he's just an easy summon when you get him in hand. Opening turn does suck with him, but he's kind of nice to see late game, especially if you can draw him with some of the limited draw power in this deck. And then the last monster that's actually going to come into play is going to be your Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. So I do run most of the Nightmares in the extra deck for this deck, because Nightmares kind of help any deck that on its own doesn't have much power, which I feel like the Nephthys deck does, but it does make a lot of monsters sometimes. So adding the Nightmares give you a lot more options of links and a lot of extra abilities in your deck that some of the Nephthys monsters don't have. And of course, Ibli just goes along with the whole like Nightmare play in itself. And then we have two Ghost Ogre, but he's not really going to be something you summon. He's more of obviously a hand trap, and this could be any hand trap you want, but I would recommend either maining Call of the Grave or at least one hand trap in this deck, because it is a little bit like less powerful than most decks out there. So that rounds up our monsters. Moving on to the spells are also pretty simple. Of course, you got the pre-preparation of rites, because why not? If you have a ritual deck that can utilize this card is essentially on its own just one of the best cards in your deck. It's going to search you out a ritual monster and a ritual spell. Then, of course, 3 Rebirth of Nephthys. This is your ritual spell. And if you use either one of the ritual monsters as material for the ritual summon when you use this, you get to pop a card on the field, which is nice. Then I am running 2 Spellbook of Knowledge. Now, I'm not running the whole Blue Boy and Eternity thing because space in this deck is limited. I have thought about dropping one Gigabyte or the Garuda if they don't end up working out for a Blue Boy, and then running that with this. But for now, just the Spellbook of Knowledges have kind of worked out for me. You do have the Spellcasters to use it on, and it's just a really good card. Then 2 Fire Formation 10 key, because sometimes if you get that cloggy monster hand, getting that 1 Fire King avatar can kind of help start setting stuff up, or getting the right, like just having his negate, period, can be a little plus for a deck that's just kind of slow like this. Then for our 1-ups, I'm running 1 Onslaught of the Fire Kings, because as good as this card is, you have to have no monsters to use it, so it's ideally your starter, but it's not super important for you to start your plays because none of the Nephthys girls are fire. They're all wind, which kind of sucks for the archetype. So this is more of just to get something out because you need it for link material. Then 1 Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones, because like I said, gotta link as much as you can in this deck and link fast. 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Dark Hole, and that is it for your spells. This deck could get a lot more aggressive if you amp up the money you're willing to put in this deck. Like World Legacy Successions would obviously help a deck that can link a lot and stuff like that. But for me, I just like to run it a little basic. Then the last 2 cards in the deck are 2 Torrential Tribute. This is in here because, a lot of your monsters benefit from being destroyed. But to be honest, now that this deck is getting to more of a version where I'm kind of linking faster, I might take these out for some more stuff to just make the consistency nice. But it is also nice to have extra protection in your deck for the meta, and a lot of times Torrential is still a good trap for heavy link decks. So if I were to take these 2 Torrentials out, I might just put 2 more hand traps in here, whether it's my choice of Ash or something like that. But I've been thinking about switching this up a little bit. That is it for our main deck. Moving on to our extra. So my extra is still also in the works. Looking forward to seeing what people have thought of with theirs. But to round things off, of course, we got the 1 Sky Striker Ace Kagari, because she's going to be your main one, help you reset the play. Essentially, she's like a free Link 2-ish, for depending on what you're going to make. I got the 1 Link Karibo, just because you never really know, like, when you're going to need just his protection effect or just an extra Link monster. One Doolittle Chimera, because you do have a lot of fires in this deck, and sometimes it's just nice to sit on something that's going to get you something back in case it goes away. And also you do just need to make random things to link climb sometimes in this deck. But its effect overall does benefit the deck, and that's why I don't mind going into it. I am running one Ib, the World Chalice Priestess. So in testing this deck, I did find there was times where I actually was able to U-Link had I ran the right stuff. Obviously, it's more late game with this deck than a starter play, but I was finding like parts where I'm like, man, I wish I had something that pointed to the sides. I wish it did this, but the extra deck was limited. And then Summon Sort getting banned kind of made Reaper Docus pointless in this deck as well, so that freed up 2 spaces in the extra deck. So I'm experimenting with 2 cards right now, and Ib is one of them. She just protects your guys, and takes 2 monsters with 2 different types and attributes. A lot of times you're sitting with monsters like that on the board and you're wondering what to do, and she could be a nice spacer card. The next card I'm experimenting with now, because of being able to link more with this deck, is going to be your Trigate Wizard. I can't guarantee you're going to always get the 3 co-links with him, but you will at least get 2 to be able to banish something, and he's just a nice card, and he's a link 3, and sometimes you just need to clear the space like mentioned before. For the Nightmares, I'm running them all except for Unicorn in this deck. Might get a lot of backlash for that, but it's just a personal preference right now because I don't really feel like I need his effect in this deck. I'm just running the basic package for now. Griffin's really nice. Of course, Phoenix and Cerebus are going to be your spot removal for monster in the main zone that's special summoned, and then a spell and trap. And then Mermaid is just really easy to make, and also helps you link climb. But for now, I just haven't really felt the space for the Unicorn, and the Nightmares, as I mentioned earlier in the deck profile, just help you with outs to certain things that your Nephthys monsters struggle to do on their own. Now, for the Nephthys links, I'm running 2 of the Sacred Preserver. I mean, this guy probably, or statue, whatever it is, this one is probably going to get up to 3 eventually when I'm finally finished with this deck, just because it's your searcher. It's an easy link 2 to make because a lot of times you're going to have a bunch of Nephthys monsters on board. I never really find myself to do the popping effect to summon a different Nephthys, but I always use the searching and add back a ritual spell, which is its first effect. It searches a level 8 winged beast from your deck, and then you add a ritual spell back from your graveyard on its summon. And I just really find like this is probably the best link they got. And then I am running one Nephthys of the Sacred Flame, but the fact that he needs multiple rituals to actually be good is probably why he's going to get cut from this deck. I honestly only ran him because he is a Nephthys monster, and he points 3 down, but in reality he could easily be a Saryuja and it would facilitate way more stuff in this play, or in this deck. So that's another something to think about. And then for the last links of the deck, I'm of course running one Borreload Dragon, just because Borreload is powerful, really good link 4 to make. Borrel's Sword would probably be a better option for a deck like this. I'm still waiting on that Raid Parent though, you know. But Borreload is also a really good option, and I would recommend having some heavy hitting link 4s in this deck. And then I'm also running Borrel Guard Dragon. Now obviously on link and link heavy decks, you're not really going to get his defense position effect off a lot, but the fact that he can send a spell and trap card to the that you control to the graveyard to summon a monster that was destroyed the same turn is nice, because you have 10 keys that are dead a lot on the board, and it's just sometimes you have a torrential set that you don't want to use because it would screw you over. So I've just found him being a really good card for now, and he's also a link 4, so he facilitates that as well. And then the last card I am running, because I have found myself with multiple level 8s on the board, I am running one Titanic Galaxy. Rank 8 is completely an option. It is more of the nichest of the plays you are going to get off in this deck. But while I'm still experimenting with the extra deck, I like to have options, and he's been a really great option right now. Believe it or not, like to stall some of my friends' better decks, when they bricked, I've sat on like an Arvada and one of these and been able to kind of just like bait myself some time for a little bit, you know. But that's it for the deck profile, ladies and gentlemen. So please let me know in the comment section below what you're doing for your Nephthys deck, if you even bothered to make the time to make one. And let me know what you think is definitely better choices in this deck. We're always dedicated to becoming better players and helping the rogue players still play the game. So please like, comment, subscribe, follow us on our social media because Francisco works his ass off on those, and we're trying to keep in contact with the community. Peace out.